So if you watch my first video, you'll know that it took about 38 minutes to complete. I want to do something a little bit shorter, so kind of went ahead and filled this one out. Drew the lines in with the small guitar, the little guitar, using my template. I did all of that, and then I went ahead and used my straight edges, the ruler plus the straight edge that I used from this eraser, and kind of filled in all the lines. And now we're ready to start on the design. So some of my previous designs have been in shades of green. I did a red, white, and blue theme here, and some purples and yellow or gold, and then red and yellow and gold. And so this one I was going to do something a little bit different. Decided to move on to maybe a Japanese theme. It will be in my own style, but what I was going to do is just kind of start out in pencil so I can kind of give myself time to get this right. And I was going to do something like this. And then basically what I want to try to do is do a koi painting, and I will try something like this. The head needs to come a little narrower there. And then we're going to put the eye down here. Kind of fill in some space here. And let me see, am I missing a fin? Looks like maybe there's a fin that should have been here. And maybe that fin really should be more up here. Doing this all in pencil to give myself, again, give myself some time to fix these things. And then, kind of gotta, in general, want to put orange right here. Maybe an orange patch that extends back. Kind of looking at a piece of artwork online that I like, but it's never going to turn out exactly like that. It's just going to be some sort of in the same style. And then really what I wanted to do is make it look like there's another fish coming up, or just kind of maybe swimming away from this one. And so that should be two fish, and then in this part I had planned to maybe do something like this. The dark green theme. I'm thinking that might look nice, and then I'll do another water lily pad here up there. So that would fill out, I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that. This is all in black, this is all in pencil right now. And then my goal is to do this in these colors. I was going to do orange and reds and white, and that white would just be not coloring in at all, and then trace around it in black. So let's see how this goes. Well, I've done some experiments with this. It's kind of nice because you can go ahead and color in with pencil, or color in to the pencil lines, and then you can later on erase the pencil lines, and it's almost as like they're not there. They never were there. So you're going to have your black lines, at least I will. I'll have the black lines coming from the Sharpie that I'm using, which is the Sharpie pen here. And so far so good. And then I'll do some design around the edges using those colors. And I think I want to add some places more red-ish to kind of show, maybe just kind of cover that up. It's a little bit darker red. Maybe not do it everywhere. Kind of gives it a more variety. And we'll see how that works out. So I'm not going to color in the scales with completely. Probably just going to suggest some scales. But not do every one. And then I'm just going to kind of go around here. And you'll see that should be a little bit more fanned out, I think. Might come back. Definitely want to make that eye nice and black. I feel like that is a fish eye. That seems pretty realistic right there. And then, like I said, I'm going to just suggest some scales here. I'm not going to fill them out. I'm hoping that looks good. And then, let me see what else I can do here. So, I'm going to make my lily pad. And then, park by where we live actually has a pond with lily pads. I probably should study them a little bit closer in person, but I'm going by a photograph right now, or memory of a photograph maybe, rather than a photograph. And then I'm going to just suggest some lines there, and then come up. And so far so good. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my darker green, I think, to fill in the lily pad. Have a light green and a dark green in my IKEA color set. Kind of like this one for the lily pad, and I'm going to try to accentuate that radial effect here just by maybe going on the edge but then radiating out. Maybe, I don't know. See how that works out. Okay, I'm thinking it doesn't look too bad. And so again, any of these pencil lines that you see inside the fish, they'll go away, and any of the pencil lines that are left over, I'll try to erase. But first, yeah, let's go ahead and try to do that. Well, it looks like I started erasing. I don't know if you can see that, but I started erasing a little too soon. So that kind of made, that kind of smeared that green too much for me. And plus, I wanted that black outline to be just a little bit stronger than I've got it. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more orange to the head. To fill it out a little bit more. It's a little bit better to me. And so I think that's pretty good. I was going to do black for the background, but I think that I would risk overdoing it. So I'm going to instead go with a, let me see if I can get away with this. This is more of a gray. I could do, I could have done a light green for the water, for the pond water, but I felt like maybe this is a better pick. I mean, when you do your projects, you can kind of experiment, see what works best. For me, I think this is looking pretty good. I like the gray. What I'm hoping is that when I come across with the gray into this place where I've got excessive green that that smeared, that it will kind of get absorbed in there and become less noticeable. And it appears that's exactly what's happened. But I'm liking this so far. Hopefully it looks like this fish is coming down, that fish is leaving, and there's at least 2 fish in this little painting. So, in fact, I wouldn't mind playing a guitar that looked like this. I'd get a lot of attention, I think. But see, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and start coloring in my fret markers, my dots up here. These aren't, sometimes they're not super noticeable. I think it turned out pretty nice there. In the previous video that I did not do any markings, any color inside the frets themselves. I've started to really like coloring every other fret, not the ones that have the dots in them. And I think that makes a nice pattern. That looks pretty good. So I had done some segments around the edges before. I think I might do something like that this time too. Just kind of thinking about this on the fly. I want to go with that theme. I'm going to go with that that idea. I'm going to go ahead and put these little segments around, and then at that point I can have color options. So I've got gray to work with, which is the main piece, which is the background color, I mean, and then I have my oranges, reds, green. I could do a different color green maybe. It's really up to you. When you make your own art, you can pick the colors and make it something you want to see and share with people. It might look like it takes a long time to do these, but the time really flies. I mean, you're watching it, and sometimes people might think it's like watching paint dry, or markers dry anyway, but it is a fun activity. That time passes so quickly when you do these. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Once you get your template established, like I have, like my little guitar template, then you can just keep going. You do the next one and the next one. I've done dozens. Each one is a little bit different, and each one is a sort of an experiment all by itself about how to put colors together, images. Here's what I'm going to do for this. I'm going to make a label inside at the back. And I've taken to doing red labels. Put some text in there that you cannot read. And then kind of reminds me of a Yamaha guitar with the red label in the back. And then for that, I'm going to try to be careful and keep inside the circle. Make a shading element there to make it look like that's in the background. There's some depth there. And so far so good. Next thing I want to do is pick out my colors for the segments around. So this takes a little bit of time, but what I want to do is use orange. I'll go with orange. Maybe I'll just do orange, red, green, and gray. Orange, red, orange, maybe see orange, gray, green, and red, orange. And so what that would look like is I'd be repeating this. Orange, gray, red, and green. And here's my gray. You don't have to do that. You could just leave it as is. But I'm going to go ahead and repeat this. So every 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to have orange, do, orange, do, and then orange down here. If you make a mistake, something doesn't turn out right, it's not the end of the world. Especially with patterns like this, I think you can just keep going. For some reason I made a mistake, I would probably just continue whatever pattern I had going and try to make the best of it. Now, I don't like that dark green that I've put in there for the edge, so I am going to switch over to a lighter green for the next time I do a green. So it's green orange, so I want to do this instead, and that would just be the only one where the dark green is. And maybe I'll do that on the top corner too, so that we would do like something like that. But all the other ones are going to be the light green. So if I pick, it's always coming right before the orange, so I can just kind of establish that. I like the dark green for the lily pad, but it is too much for me going around the edges, so that's why I switched over. And then I will do what I might end up doing is coming back over that red. In fact, I think I will. I'll come back over that red with a touch of orange to give it a more orange red, or red orange look. And do this. Because it might be just a little too red. I don't know if you can really see a difference on camera, but I think it changes it somewhat on the guitar. And that's kind of how I used it anyway when I was coloring the fish in. So Now I'm going to go with a gray. I think gray's a solid thing here. A solid pick. Sometimes, you know, the color is too much around the edges, and you might not want to do that. You might want to just leave it as is. I kind of like it. So the next step would be to color in the tuners. And in this case, I go with gold. Gold marker, and wow, those colors are pretty bright. I don't know. It might mute those a little bit. My thought is if I go over it with more of a neutral color that I could mute those, and so when you're making decisions on the fly, yeah, I think it's muted that a little bit, and I kind of like it a little bit better. On this side, it's a lot brighter. Like I said, when you're making these decisions on the fly, if you're doing these designs, I mean, sometimes the guitar, the little design doesn't turn out exactly the way you want it, but I think that having it muted just a little bit is a better choice. Alright, so kind of done with that part of it. I am going to go ahead and use that again, however. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go up the sides of the neck, in between the tuner pegs, and around the top, the headstock. The reason I do that again is so that when I go around with my knife to cut this out from the watercolor paper, that there's more of a edge, or more of a more to work with, more real estate to work with, so that I'm not cutting so close to the neck. I did that in the beginning, and it made it so that it's too delicate, and I didn't really like that. It was too flimsy. So the other thing I wanted to do is use my caramel color. This is the one I've been using. I try not to be too fanciful for my pieces that I want to look like wood. I just go ahead and use something that kind of looks like wood. I've used some bright colors in the headstock and the bridge at some points, and you know, they were okay. They didn't look terrible, but they did look didn't look as good as just a regular piece of wood. I think that kind of does it. Okay, so around the sound hole, I am going to do something fairly simple. I'm not going to repeat all those colors. I'm going to do this. And kind of leave it at that. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, and so now what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this out. Like I've said, if you are not experienced with a X-Acto blade, extremely sharp, don't want to mess with it. Kids definitely should have adult supervision doing this. It is very sharp, and they seem to stay sharp for a long time, even though they're cutting through paper, which tends to dull blades. But I've had really good success with these so far. Now, cutting around, you can do it a number of different ways. To keep it on camera, I'm trying to just go around like this and keep the blade pretty much in this, the point of the blade in the same place, and then just kind of dragging, moving the image around. You can kind of see when it pops out. Oh, there's a little bit of fiber there. I didn't quite get it. Be careful. It's a cut. Feels like it bottomed out. Okay, great. And then now all I have to do is go around the edge, outside edge. You can see some places I wasn't super careful to color into the black. And you'll see that even though that does not actually bother me at all when I'm looking at it, even when it's not cut out. It kind of goes away when you start cutting around with the blade. I'm not really doing this to score it first and then go over it again like a second time. I like to get the cut the first time. If you don't cut it the first time, I feel like my chances of getting back into that groove and not cutting more than I want, I feel like my chances of making a mistake go up when I try to score it lightly first and then go back into that groove. So I'm trying to get this all done in the same cut. And sometimes you can tell because it lifts up. Let's see how luckily we got. Mostly pretty good. This little thing right here is that L. It's always the toughest one. But I'm feeling pretty happy with that design. And then, I mean, you can make your own designs, but basically what you would do is draw in pencil if you're going to do something kind of complex. In fact, I want to put the cap back on before I make a mistake, get cut myself. But if you do draw something that is not super familiar to you, then you would do that in pencil, then go back over it with your marker so you can commit to that. And I'm just going to do my little sign-offs here. So if you want to, Sean Smith, orange, paperbacks, well, I should be really neat when I do this, orange paperbacks at gmail.com. And my little sign off in the back, the little signature thing is write your own songs and play play your heart out. And put my little J317 I see my job as encouraging people to do creative stuff, to be makers. I want you to experiment with your own stuff. Don't imitate mine, just kind of make your own. But this is an idea of what you could do with a little template. This little, I call it the humble little cardboard template. You can see it starts out really dull and kind of small, but you kind of build up your image, and it comes out looking like that. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching.